All right, how are you? Well, first, let me start. This is the first live of the Entrepreneur Journey podcast that we have ever done. And today I am thrilled to have Jill Sessa with us. And Jill is going to drop a lot of value on us for one. Uh, but let's start with kind of just some getting to know you questions, Jill.
Sure.
The first one is I know you kind of live a nomadic, you have lived a nomadic lifestyle. So you've been a lot of places. Tell us which place you've been to that was your most exciting place that you've ever been to?
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And hey, everybody that's watching it live and will be watching it in the future. So you are actually coming from my nomadic lifestyle. I don't normally have a studio apartment in the background. Sometimes I have beaches, sometimes I have whatever. But right now I am in central Mexico and I was in San Miguel de Allende for the last week. And I have to say that place is absolutely gorgeous and is now number 2 on my list. Number 1 is Costa Rica in an area in Nosara and Samara, and actually all of Costa Rica, so much so that my nomadic existence is ending because I have purchased a property down there and I'm on my way down.
Nice. I'm gonna have a follow-up question to that because I kind of know a little insight. You have plans for that property. Can you tell us about that?
I do. So I had no plans of stopping. Like, I've been nomadic for over a decade and absolutely love traveling and thought it was going to be my life until I was needed back in New York where my parents are. And, they're aging and just the responsibilities that come with that. And just this past year, I kept asking, how do I combine my very spiritual self with my very techie kind of robotic brain and everything that we do in our business? And those answers came to me this past January and February when I visited a property, actually for a friend of mine. So she gave me permission, but she decided she wasn't going to go for it. And it just came to me that it would be the perfect retreat center. I've been operating our business that our clients come and work with me nomadically wherever I am over the last 5 or 6 years. Obviously not so much in the last 2, but we still have done it. And so this way clients can come and stay for a week or more, but also so many of our clients really should be holding in-person events, masterminds, retreats, those kinds of things. So I wanted to be able to have a property that I can provide all of the logistics for them. The same way I provide all of the logistics and tech support in their business, I can do it for them so that they can just get their message out in the world and work with their clients. I'm really passionate about people focusing on their genius. And so this property is going to allow us to extend that in yet another layer. And I'm really excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit more about you helping people focus on their genius. So Costa Rica, I have not been there, but I have friends that have been there, and it is a paradise, I guess, basically.
It is. The people are really kind. There's something, and we don't need to get it all into politics, but there is something to be said for a country without a military and that guns aren't everywhere. People are brought up with kindness and how they treat their neighbors. They're very family oriented. That Pura Vida spirit that we hear about is just alive and well everywhere. I let people know that if you've been to Hawaii, the Aloha spirit is very similar. I love them both. It was a tough call, but the travel distance to Hawaii was a lot more than I was willing to do from New York.
Oh, yeah. Wow. One more two more getting to know you questions. If they made a movie about your life, what would the title be?
What comes to mind is a t-shirt I once bought my dad when I started traveling. I was at this amazing place called Slab City, also known as Salvation Mountain, and they have an art part of it, the farthest part, and it's called East Jesus. And the t-shirt is somewhere east of Jesus. And I kind of feel like that's been my dad's answer to where is Jill over the last decade is somewhere east of Jesus. Nice. And so I really feel like that might be the movie title. Just it has to be something like Rolling Along, but I feel like somewhere east of Jesus works.
I love that title. That is super cool. So what did you last Google?
So I often say that my absolute best life and work skill is that I'm willing to push more buttons than the average human. And that usually involves also willing to Google more than the average human. So today, this morning, I had to Google what are the difference between Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars as far as registrants. And the difference for those of you watching that maybe are on Zoom, you cannot upload registrants to a Zoom meeting. You can only do it to a webinar. That's how we were uploading 100 registrants within an hour before a meeting.
Wow.
So we had
Nice.
to individually add each person because we needed components of the meeting because it was going to be a very interactive event. So I was Googling that. I have a big belief that I don't need to know everything. I need to know where to find the answer.
Yeah, totally. So let's dive into your actual entrepreneur journey now. Kind of like give us the cliff notes. We want to know like the inception, where you started, kind of the progress that you made, and kind of where you are now, because I know where you're making a transition soon.
Yeah, I just touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So my entrepreneurial journey started in my teens. Like I know some people say they started with a lemonade stand. I was an athlete, so I didn't have time for the lemonade stand. I'm sure I did a million fundraisers for that stuff. But I have been in the fitness industry since my teens. And I was actually in the fitness industry all the way through my late 30s. And so I owned gyms and Pilates studios. I had coaching and training businesses and traveled all around the world with that. And unfortunately, I got really sick in my late 30s, partly from the burnout of all the fitness, but also with another illness. And I needed to figure out something different. And I was literally in the hospital when I received 3 phone calls from people asking me to head up their fundraisers. And I realized that like I had spent a lot of time volunteering and fundraising work, and I had a real skill in it. So I had a brief foray into working for someone else, and I am among the chronically unemployable. I'm sure many of you understand.
Yep. Most of us in the audience.
So although I was really successful in that position, I was not fit for like having a boss demanding that I didn't bring my dog to work. And even though the clients wanted to see my dog, that was the funny part, is the clients wanted my dog to visit, but the boss didn't. So but I learned a ton in it. And I realized that fitness was just not going to be sustainable the way I was doing it. I was very like active. I was teaching classes and things like that and needed something else to do. But also because I was really good at my job as a fundraiser, I got a great severance. So I took all of that money and just decided, what am I going to do at the next part of my journey? And I realized that I loved everything about websites. So it's a big flip, like to go from teaching fitness and Pilates into coding websites, but it's actually the very same part of my brain. I feel like how you construct somebody's body, how you're thinking about how their system works in their body was the same thing that allowed me to understand how websites worked. But I actually didn't learn to code and all of those things I paid for that year. I didn't get it. They were teaching me in different like ways that my brain didn't work. So I taught myself to code the same way I taught myself to knit. I took apart sweaters in order to learn how they came together. So I literally took apart websites for 6 months. I was fortunate enough, somebody was living in the building I was in at the time, and he was a phenomenal coder. Many of you have actually interacted with his work. So if you've ever picked a color on a website, he's the guy that invented that entire script that allows you to roll over and pick colors. He invented the way you pick seats at an NFL game, so I was so lucky. And he literally would sit next to me in the coffee room and we took apart websites. And through the course of like a couple of years, we were building websites. We started a very early social media dashboard, which was acquired later on. We started several different businesses together, but the thing that I loved doing was building the websites. So that one business got purchased. So I had the opportunity to travel, and I took off on a bicycle, kind of a quirky trip, and came back and realized I would be able to work while I was traveling. During that time, one of our big clients was involved in this little event called the Boston Marathon. And a not so little event happened at the Boston Marathon that year. And that was the very day that I started my bicycle journey. And so I ended up spending 2 weeks in this condo somebody lent me. And I was doing the work for them, but, not really enjoying the travel part of it yet, but it made me realize that I could still see things, go to different places, not be in New York all the time, and still work. We did some really important work for them in that time immediately following. And so it just is always stuck in my heart that I wanted to do meaningful work and work with clients who understood that they were not that their egos weren't so huge. So notice I didn't even mention who this client was, and they are the force behind what became the One Boston Fund. Wow. So nobody even knew it. I won't say their name either. So nobody even knew it. And it was really important to me that they were full of heart. So as I was traveling, just shortly after, one of the clients that I built one of those initial websites for contacted me, and he's like, "Hey, Jill, our website's all white." And I was like, "Well, that was the aesthetic you were going for." And he said, no, it's blank. It's all white. So I realized that almost anybody that builds a website, especially at this time, this is a decade ago, they would build the website and then get on to building the next site. And it just hit me that I would be able to do website maintenance, and it would be something that I can do while I was traveling because it wasn't as time intensive. I built up a team. I had already been outsourcing at that point. I built up a team around it, and we have been operating that business for 10 years, coming up on our 10-year anniversary, and that's Ultimate WP Help. And that business has evolved. We've gone from much more than website maintenance and into overall strategy and scale for business, and specifically around systems and operations. It's my total love. So the journey, I'm turning 50 this year. So we're literally talking over, 35, more than 35 years of entrepreneurialism, but it always feels like it's coming through the same thread, and that it's focusing on the thing that really I'm passionate about, what lights me up, and what I'm great at. And so that, we call it the intersection, where those two things line up, has been what has made my life what I think is fun as well as meaningful. And it's the same thing that I love to teach to our clients.
Wow. I don't think there's a person that can say they've lived the laptop lifestyle more than you, because a lot of people say that they still live in a condo, or they still have a home base, but you have really lived the laptop lifestyle more than anyone that I've ever encountered. So that is awesome.
The world has made it possible now, right? Very early on, I embraced everything about the cloud. It's very early on. So I have not had an issue buying a new phone or a computer. Some people panic over that. I haven't had an issue doing that in 10 years because we embraced everything about Google, everything about LastPass. So I'm sitting here with 3 phones on my desk right now because they all have different internet service. And it takes me less than 90 seconds to set up a new phone.
Wow.
So little things like that just understanding how it was going to make my life smoother. And then also recognizing that this is my life and I'm not on vacation. So I make I will tell you, I'm on vacation. Some people say, "Aren't you always on vacation?" Because they see, the trips. But I've been a burner. So going to Burning Man is a vacation, or going to Burning Man in other countries. I take that time completely off. And I think it's really important because a lot of entrepreneurs forget that, because it's now they're their own boss. So either they can't stop working because they have no income coming in, because they haven't brought themselves up to that level of scale, or we're being recorded and we're live. So I'm going to not curse, but it's really hard for me.
Okay.
They think they're so important that they can't step away from their business. And so I have made it an absolute priority for me that I take breaks. I let clients know I'm off. I have staff that can take care of them, but also I don't deny them their vacations.
Right.
So why am I going to deny myself? And so I just, for anybody that does want to live nomadically, I think really creating a balance that you're recognizing, that kind of flow and your energy is important. But I love seeing the world. We have an absolutely incredible country in the world. I'm now, obviously not in the US anymore, but just exploring everywhere. And I've come across kindness, absolutely everywhere. So why not go and explore that?
Nice, nice. Yeah, that is amazing. Let's dive in a little bit more to your expertise. So I know one of the vital things that Ultimate WP did, or still does, because it's still, we're making a transition, but you're still in that business as well, was help entrepreneurs focus, not deal with the tech headaches, right? And focus on their area of expertise. Can you dive into that a little bit, the importance of that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So our specialty obviously started out in taking care of WordPress sites, and then it expanded into anything that touches a website. So, their email, their e-commerce systems, social media in some cases, just recognizing that it's a holistic system, right? You kind of can't do one without really thinking about the rest. And for a lot of our clients, they came to us initially because the WordPress side completely overwhelmed them, but so did everything else. So they were never really getting started with what they needed to in their business because they were letting themselves get bogged down with things like landing pages and connecting opt-ins and all of these things. And I'm just of a huge belief that the world needs each of us, right? Like, so, you having this platform, any of my clients, what they talk about in their mission, the world needs that. And so each one of us fills a space, right? We don't need to fill the whole thing. And so many people really get caught up in that they feel they need to be the Jill of all trades, not the Jack of all trades, right? Like they feel like, oh, I need to be the master of it. I need to know it all. Where instead we live in a world that at the drop of a finger or a login into Fiverr or Online Jobs PH or, any of these kinds of services, you can find somebody who their sole expertise is that thing that you either dislike or you're terrible at. So the value, the opportunity cost of spending any time on that thing that you hate, then your energy is low. Your clients suffer because you go into that next meeting or interaction or video, like, your energy is down. Your head hurts because you're trying to learn too many things. And, you're not sleeping, like all of these things. Whereas instead, I look at it like, I'm able to employ people, right? Like I can use my genius, my magnetism, my business to earn income that I then get to spread out to others. Because maybe they're not the person that can acquire clients easily. They're, they can either advertise their skill or something like that. But I can bring in clients at a good rate, and then I can pass off that income to somebody else to operate within their genius. So I love that part of it. I have to say that's probably my biggest motivator is the fact that I get to kind of share the wealth in that case. My second biggest motivator is that, like, I have a client, her tagline is, spreadsheets are my love language. And that to me is like, right? Like that's proof that there is somebody for everything because other people are like, oh, I can't deal with spreadsheets. I don't want to see spreadsheets, right? So when I think about that, I'm actually stealing from somebody else if I try to do the thing that's in their genius.
Wow. And how often is it that CEOs don't really evolve into CEOs because they're stuck doing the lower paid task because they feel like they have to, right?
We call them chief everything officers.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always say, like, isn't it time you move from chief everything officer to being a true CEO in your business? We do this, through like a whole series of processes, but a lot of it is like documenting what you do. If it truly is in your genius, then you want to be able to teach most of what you do to somebody else so that it becomes a repeatable process. So most tasks, only 20% are actually your unique genius. So what if you can train somebody else to do the other 80%? So your 20% expands to your 80%, right? Like, so you're spending most of your time in that place. And so like a lot of the people that we come across, number one objection is I can't spend money on it, right? They'll say like, oh, I can't afford to hire somebody, or I can't afford to pay that designer. I can't afford to have this. You can't afford not to. I mean, that might sound cliche, but the very moment you decide, okay, I'm going to give up 5 hours worth of income to somebody else a week, your whole world opens up. So I always say that on average, I work 15 to 20 hours a week, and I affect 150 to 200 hours a week of work.
Wow. Nice.
Okay. So that's like, really what we're wanting people to gauge based on that. Like, if you want to do it all, like I have a client who absolutely loves designing his funnels. He's a coach, but he coaches on sales and marketing. So designing the funnels is also sharpening his skills. He likes to see what's new out there. He kind of gets upset when we take it off of his hands. So if it's the thing that lights him up, if it's the thing that keeps him sharp, I'm not saying don't do that. But then when he has to make 4 copies of it and has to do all the analytics tracking and has to, like all of that kind of stuff, like that's a silly thing for him to do. But guess who was spending an additional hour per funnel on it?
He was.
Wouldn't he rather have that time to coach a client?
Yep.
So a lot of it is ego, it's that like we think we're the only one that can do it. And then fear of the money, fear of letting go, fear of somebody not doing it correctly. So there is so much mindset work around like outsourcing and scaling that focusing on that is really important. Learn that you can trust other people. Learn that you are so good at it that you can teach other people to be as good at it as you are. And then just get going. Like, first find the things that are like your bottom tasks, the ones that you're not great at, they don't make you happy, you never find the time for them. And those are the quick ones to outsource, right? So for me, it's accounting. Like, it's not my thing. And so like, why in the world would I spend any time in my Xero account? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So find that thing and get it off your plate, and then start to filter that down and down and down. I often suggest that people just spend 2 days tracking all the things that they're doing. Literally mark down every single thing that you're doing. We have worksheets that, if you want this, but you can just do that, right? Mark down what you're doing. And then just indicate, how is my energy doing this? How's my skill doing this? Do I know somebody who either does this or has people who do it that I can quickly kind of like pass it off, right? Because you can reach out into your network and somebody either has a great VA, they have a great graphic designer, their accountant's fantastic and loves spreadsheets, like you can just start reaching out, and then you like have a little shortcut into that trust factor before you get like good at hiring.
Yeah, awesome. So last year you did a speech at a traffic funnels event, and the title was Designing Your Business Systems and Automations for Increased Human Connection. I'm fascinated by that title, but I want to know more about it, and I'm sure the audience wants to know more about what that actually means. So if you could expand on that.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't give speeches. I give highly engaging talks. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
I don't like it's that was a super fun one to do from that stage though. I'm just going to ask this question, and everybody, you can silently answer to yourself. What does the R stand for in CRM? You have to think about it for a second. It stands for relationship. So why anybody would have a system, which a CRM is, for anybody that's like in a digital business or a sales business or anything like that, a CRM in some capacity is like the central part of it. So it's sending out their emails, it's collecting all this stuff, it's connecting to their payment processor, all of this. Therefore, you have this database that's just waiting for you to tap into it. However, if you start all the automations just for the sake of automation and you forget that there's a human going through that process, you're in trouble. So collecting relevant data on people, but also going back to it. Like, so if somebody's going to have a sales call, their CRM should be highly supportive of that. They should be able to know who that person is at a glance before they ever get onto the call. So design your systems to collect all of that information, whether it's a cold lead, that it's the form before they get onto the call and all the questions. Make sure they're like, I think of it this way with forms, for instance. If you had a completely cold conversation, somebody you never met, they didn't know who you were, you didn't know each other's names, what are the first 5 questions that you ask? Those are the first 5 questions that should be on a form. Okay? Because there's no need for them most times in a conversation. I should already know that your name is Doug. I should already know that your company is Sales Site. Like that, and so if I don't know it because you're completely cold, have them fill it out on a form because it's such basic information. Okay. So that's number one. But then start to find some like more unique questions that allow you to surface that person's personality or have a point of conversation. An example is in my interviews. Like, so if I'm interviewing for a new position, my last question is what will be in your glass or your cup when you're coming to that interview? Seems silly.
Yeah.
Like why? I learn a lot based on somebody answering coffee, tea, water, nothing, juice,
Whiskey.
Whiskey. I hope they don't. I've never had that. I have never ever heard somebody say whiskey, unless it was a friend somehow answering that question. But you know, it's if they say coffee, for instance, it's a quick, easy point of conversation for us because I'm letting this out of the bag. But my secret email, we all have that one that we put in for things that we're like throwing away. My secret email is yes@irunon.coffee. Okay. So what's going to be in my mug when we're having a meeting is coffee. And so it's a funny little way of like having an engagement, but that's like a simple thing. But all along the way, how somebody is interacting with you and your business should be captured in that CRM, not just for data points, not just for vanity metrics, not just for numbers, but for actually having engaging conversations with them. The engagement could be in your emails. Are you writing your emails in such a way that that personalization comes through? So for instance, you have 10,000 people on your email list. Some came through, you know, a lead magnet. Some came through a webinar you did. Some, right? Like all of these different ways. And they've answered some of these questions. You now have those great little targeted segments, number one, but maybe you also have some really great merge fields that you can send, that you can add into your emails. Or if you are, you know, you can start doing singular emails and you've got points of contact. So always be looking at your system and thinking we're humans doing human things. And how do we increase that? Same thing in your, you know, in how your entire system is set up. Make sure that it's not so robotic that somebody going through it doesn't even like recognize who you are, right? Because here's a little just inside fun fact. I've never had more than a couple of 100 people on my email marketing list.
Wow.
Okay. I don't do marketing. We're back-end people. We're fulfillment people. I've never focused on it. So when somebody gets onto my list, like I know who they are, but I'm also going to probably convert them, right? Like Minette's telling you those numbers that I've converted them. But it's because of the kind of information that we're capturing. I run a pretty successful and significant business based on that small of a list. So like, think about that. You don't need the vanity metrics. You need people that know you, and you, more importantly, you have to know who they are.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is the more engaged and the more of the relationship you build is so much better than just a large number of people.
Oh yeah. We have clients that are, you know, mid 6-figure up to 7-figure businesses that they're operating in 3 to 10 hours a week with just hundreds on their email marketing list. Up to 10,000. Like, you know, we have clients that have millions on their list too. But, you know, we have people that are running absolute dream businesses with very, like, in this world and kind of like the digital marketing world, small numbers, because I also clean out their list voraciously, right? Like, so same thing. Why will I keep hammering somebody with an email that hasn't opened any campaign of the last 20, 30, 40, 50? They were added to my list 4 years ago and never purchased anything. I'm in business. As much fun as it is to email people, I'm in business. Okay. So then the technical aspects of all of that, right? When you start to get really good about making your lists clean, you also get really good deliverability.
Mm-hmm.
More emails get read, more, you know, and so like that kind of stuff stacks on. So it has multiple repercussions that are really positive. Also, like, stop paying for the numbers on your list. It might be a small number. Like, here's a, for instance, we have a client who's on MailChimp. And so she just moved from like a 149 or 145, whatever that number is, to like $200 a month. Okay. It's a small number. Some would say, who cares? Like, why even have Jill spend an hour, or my staff spend an hour cleaning it? That number jumped. We let it go for 3 months. Her emails were going out. She was getting an 11% open rate and a 4% click-through rate. averaging per newsletter about $1,000. We send a weekly newsletter with a product in it. Cut the list all the way back down. Like, so now she's paying like $120 a month. So we've saved her that money. Not, again, hopefully her business is good and that's not that significant. Her open rates tripled. And I know it's because the deliverability went up. And she's now averaging, I think, $1,800 per newsletter. Same people are receiving it. Same people are receiving it. Think about it, getting sent it, but a smaller amount. And so, who's opening it in their inbox and all of those kinds of things. So when I say focus on like the humans, it's this kind of stuff. It's in the big picture as well as the small picture, because sometimes there's really great technical reasons too, to focus on it. I've had clients that are like, oh, we're going after funding, or we've got a grant, or we've got somebody wants to see the numbers on our email list. I'm like, let me get you that spreadsheet. I can just download who has ever opted into their list. That doesn't mean they need to stay on the list.
Right.
So just being like kind of ruthless. I would pass this off to somebody, unless it's your genius, and you're probably listening to this and nodding your head because you already do it. Okay. But find somebody who's going to help you manage these kinds of things and really take a deep look at your whole CRM. And is it working for you? The other thing is to make sure that you're not over like all the different like campaigns and automations and the flows. And so sometimes people get so many of them going that they don't even realize one person's going through this and another one's going through this. And they're in so many journeys that they're getting 5 emails within 2 hours. So unless you truly know what your value journey is for your clients, keep it super simple, right?
Yes.
You can build really fantastic businesses on 1 or 2 funnels, 1 or 2 journeys, 1 or 2 offers. And the more you do that, those clients stick with you. Our average client has been with us 7 years.
Nice. Yeah,
okay.
Wow.
So it's just like really that R, don't forget what it means.
Yeah, my audience will know that I'm super huge on relationships and
yes.
the human connection. So, and so what you're saying, I want to make sure the audience gets this. It doesn't just apply to an email list. Your Facebook friends, your Facebook group. It doesn't necessarily have to. There are huge groups out there that are not engaged, that are not producing for the people that started the group. And there's much smaller groups that are producing for the owners of those groups. So,
and there's an opportunity cost there, right? Like either you're not producing, you're not engaging, you're like, I'm again, deeply spiritual. So energy has a lot to do with how I operate. And so when something is kind of like a dead resource, it's a group, it's an email list, it's a website, that energy drags you down in everything that you do. Okay. It also means that those who might want to engage with you are then coming to this thing that they're like, okay, there's supposedly 100,000 people in this group. There's been 3 posts this month, so it's like, wouldn't you be better off either starting from scratch or really working at that group and just doing engagement on a regular basis, getting yourself going into it, or getting somebody in the group to help you with it, build that relationship up and get them to help you. And it's like, you just want to be thinking about what's the energy around all of this. So here's a little bit of my like woo-woo plus my robot brain. Okay, they're always going to be combined. And it's just because relationships, connections are that energy, right? It's like why you and I ended up having a friendship, but it was because of like messages, but it's because we were able to recognize that each one knew to have a connection. And it wasn't like, hey, let me slide into your DMs and then, start asking you, so have you seen the success that you would like to see in your business yet? Whatever the stupid messages are.
The one people get like 50 times a day.
Yes, because somebody's teaching it somewhere, right? Like, and I fully believe that those that are here listening and in your group and stuff, that's not who they are. So we don't even need to spend time on it. But do think about, are you building stuff that's all about your own personal vanity? Or are you building it to really truly be client or customer focused and what they need and how you can better help them?
Yep. Customer first all the time. Awesome. So this has been a great interview, Jill. You have, like I promised at the beginning, a lot of value just on the outsourcing piece, on what the automation piece and how to treat people like people and not just
Mhm.
in that whole automation. I think that's the secret. A lot of people do get lost in the automation and forget that there's people in there.
Mhm.
So,
For sure.
so very, very powerful. So tell us, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, where would they go?
Yeah. So easiest thing right now, or always, is to go to jillsessa.com. So it's my first name, my last name, and a .com. Easy enough. So if you go there, it'll always be like the things that's going on. You'll find out about my travels or my business. Right now, we're in a process of actually, you touched on it earlier, Ultimate WP Help is sliding out of my life, and Con Samania, which means with passion in Italian. So Con Samania is the name of our retreat center, and also UWP is going to become Con Samania Digital within the next 2 months. So jillsessa.com. And something that I always would love to offer people, in case you couldn't tell, I like to chat, I like to talk. And so if you go to jillsessa.com/chat, that will just bring you to my scheduler, no charge, no nothing, just schedule some time with me. Maybe you want to ask about traveling. Maybe you want to ask about business. Just, I'm a human. Let's have a human conversation, whatever it is that you're interested in. That's not a sales call unless you want it to be. And I'm very serious about that. So just, feel free to use it. But what I would absolutely love is if people are interested in this. My favorite thing to do in our business, I have to curse now, Doug.
Okay. It's allowed.
Beep. Okay. Is fix the broken shit. So many people, they tried all this stuff. They have the tech and the tools. They tried all these things, and now they don't even know what's going on. And so it is super effective to sit down with me for like 4 hours. These are generally 2 to 4 hours. Look at everything. Look at what you have in place, what you want ideally to have in place with these tools, because a lot of times it's not quite there yet. And then take Jill brain on it. Okay. And so we take a half day to look at it together, really go through it all. And then we step away and work our magic for a day. So you're out of it. We take everything that we need, and my whole team does the implementation and fixes everything and puts in the system the way that you want. So we call it a day and a half to implementation. Takes about a week, those days aren't back to back. But that Fix the Broken Shit package is a great way to get started with us. But it's more importantly, it's a great way for you to kind of get that off of your plate. Okay. Because I bet you there's a lot of people thinking right now, she's talking about the CRM and I don't even want somebody to look at it, right? Or like, I know that there's automations there, but I don't know why I set them up and what they're supposed to do. I do. My genius is that I can take a look at it all and I just see it instantly. It's like how my brain works. So take us up on that. And for your people or whoever is listening to this, if they put in the coupon code JOURNEY, I almost never give discounts. So this isn't a discount. This is just a complimentary little offer that you will take $500 off of that package.
Wow. Nice. Okay. Nice. I know.
Most important.
I have 2 comments, or maybe 3 comments on that. The first comment is about your form on your website to book a call with you. I think that is so cool and authentic. And she really does mean that. She will just have a chat with you to build relationships. So how relieving is that to know that you can reach out to somebody and know that they're just trying to build a connection?
Yeah. And sometimes it's that I said something, you're like, oh, she was in Central Mexico. I want to go there. I have a question. Like, I am a human that thrives on talking to people. So you're actually helping me out when we get to have those conversations. I love it. I love it so much. And again, it doesn't have to be about business. I think that every one of us needs to treat other people like humans. So my personal goal is to always have 5 to 10 of those a month. Sometimes I do them while driving. Sometimes I do them while sitting at the beach. So please take me up on it.
And my second comment is, I know that you're a master at what you do. So if you have broken systems in your business, there's no one better to fix those systems than Jill and her team. So thank you so much for being on here, and take her up on that offer. Because like she said, we're not going to even call it a discount. It's a favor to me.
It is.
So she's doing a favor to my audience, offering that. And I know there are a bunch of you people out there with broken systems. You need to at least
get it taken care of. Like, you will be so surprised at how relieved you are once like that deck is cleared. And then for a lot of people, they'll then be able to like see what they actually want to implement. And it's just so much easier. And then they can bring somebody either into their team or outsource it and just make it happen. So take that thing that I know is on so many of yours like to-do list, because you think I have to take a day or a week off in order to do all of this, right? It's like, in order to fix all of this, I have to stop my business for a week. It's not true. We could take care of it for you.
Nice. It's a question of, do you want your business to run smoothly or not?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So
it's a very small investment to make in that.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you again, Jill. And I look forward to talking to you more times than just now. And maybe we'll have you back to do a training if you're interested in that. So
I would love to.
All right.
So much fun. This has been great. Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time, Trailblazers, keep moving forward.